Hello friends, so in this video we are going to talk about curing internal parasites using metronidazole and fenbendazole. Internal parasites are very common in fishes and they can cause things like bloating, white poop, or various types of worms, such as Camellinus in this photo. Both fenbendazole and metronidazole are much more effective when dosed orally as opposed to right into the water column. Although metronidazole is also very effective when dosed right into the water column if you want to disinfect the tank. Metronidazole is a very effective antibiotic and also a very effective anti-protozoan. However, it is not very effective at internal parasites unless it is consumed by the fish. Hexamita, a type of flagellate protist, is thought to be one of the leading causes of digestive issues and also a contributing factor to hole in the head disease. Some interesting fact, Hexamita is closely related to the same parasites that causes Giardia and another parasite that causes, well, smelly you know what. I'm not kidding. Metronidazole is literally the medication that is in Flagyl. Metronidazole is part of the medication that I use in my quarantine process. Even if the fish doesn't show symptoms, they should always be medicated, because the disease is extremely common, especially in wild-caught and farmed fish. Because the disease is so common, I also recommend that you medicate your fish every 6 months, regardless. Because when the infection gets really bad, medicating them at that point might be too late. Fenbendazole is a medication used to treat different types of worms, such as tapeworms and roundworms, which are actually quite common in farmed fish and especially wild-caught fish. The symptoms they cause are actually very similar to internal protozoan and bacterial infections, such as digestive issues, lethargy, and emancipation. The most famous of these are Camellinus roundworms, mainly because they exhibit themselves through the anus of the fish. Though less common, I also seen tapeworms inside fish. And just like metronidazole, fenbendazole must be also consumed by the fish for it to be effective. Fenbendazole also does not dissolve in the water column. And just like with metronidazole, I use it as part of my quarantine process, so I give my medication to all my fish, even if they don't show any symptoms. To create metronidazole infused food, it is actually quite simple, as metronidazole is water soluble. Here I am using Metroplex by Seachem, but any form of powder metronidazole would work fine. Make sure you double check and see that the only ingredients is metronidazole. I use about 150 milligrams, the same amount of dosage that comes with the scooper in Metroplex. Then simply add it to your cup. Then you want to add some water. Now don't add too much water, I'm using very little water. Metronidazole is highly soluble in water, so you don't need much to get it to dissolve. The biggest issue is actually that once it's active, it doesn't last long. It only has an active half-life of about 8 hours when dissolved in water. So you only want to dissolve it enough so that the food can effectively soak it and dry out later on. It might take a while for it to dissolve enough, so just keep adding water until you find a good consistency. If you find that you have a lot of crystals, don't worry, that's not that big of a deal, because any non-dissolving crystals will simply just dissolve in the fish tank. Then you're going to add in 1 tablespoon of fish food. You want to use food that your fish are used to, so that way they can eat it fast. Since metronidazole is water soluble, the longer the food stays in the water, the less effective it becomes. Here I'm using Hikari bug bites, mainly because that's what my fish have been eating and that's what they're used to. Make sure you give it a good shake so that the moisture is evenly absorbed. Use a spoon to mix it around if you have to. If you do it right, your food should absorb the concoction without looking too wet. After you're done, set your medicated food aside and just let it dry for about 20 minutes. Okay, so now moving on to fenbendazole. You want to use a powder form of fenbendazole that's commonly sold as a dog dewormer. Take about 1 tablespoon of fish food of your choice. Then go ahead and scoop out roughly about 100 milligrams of fenbendazole. Fenbendazole has a chalky consistency that binds to food actually pretty well. It does not dissolve in water, so there's no need to pre-mix it or pre-dissolve it in water. So you're essentially just dusting your food. Make sure you give it a good mix so that your food is nicely well dusted. Once you're done, it should look something like this. Alright, so this is the feeding protocol for fenbendazole and metronidazole. You're going to feed each type of food every 48 hours about 4 to 5 times. That means over a course of little over a week, that means you're going to feed them metronidazole and fenbendazole on alternate days. I try not feeding them at the same time because I don't want too much medication in the fish system. Although I do think that it might be beneficial for it to have a synergistic effect. Make sure to not overfeed your fish with medicated food. They only really need 1 or 2 pellets a day. If you do, don't worry, they both have very low toxicity in fish. So that's pretty much it. I think more people should really try to focus on keeping their fish healthy through medication. Sick fish are pretty much the leading cause of death for most aquarium hobbyists. Prevention and preparation is always the key to success. We never really know the condition of a fish before putting them on our tank, so quarantining them through the correct medication and process is extremely valuable to any aquarist. I hope this video was extremely informative, and if you guys have any questions, please leave it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys.